All right, it has been a long week and a little bit of a rough close to the week here in the markets um, that has led us to trending down over the past couple of days. But wanted to dive in here on Apple as we've really just been seeing this sideways pattern over the past month or so, and just kind of like what I see moving forward, and some potential buying areas and levels of support, levels of resistance if we start to move back up. But nonetheless, let's go ahead and dive into it. I'm actually going to start here on the weekly. Like to start on the longer term time frames, but as you can tell on the weekly, just a big old runaroo here that's just been skyrocketing back up ever since the start of 2019. Nonetheless, what we really want to look at closer here is the fact that we had our first close below the 9-day moving average here on the weekly in some period of time. So that does hold some significance. And I do want to say that the overall markets were kind of pulling back today due to the coronavirus and the impact that is going to have on these major companies moving forward is a little bit shaky and unclear. If it's going to have a big impact or a smaller impact. Obviously, the longer that it progresses, and the worse that it gets, it's going to have more and more or greater and greater economic impact. But I did want to point that out that here on the weekly, you can see that we did close below, ever so slightly. And again, we can open up at the start of next week if good news comes out, and we can start to push back up. But I do want to point that out, that it could be a sign that we are starting to trend lower. That is that idea is held up on the daily and the 4-hour chart as well. You can see here on the daily we actually closed below the 50-day moving average, just a little bit below, but it was still below the 50-day moving average. And it seems as if we are continuing to fade back down. And that this time, this channel that we've been seeing, this time, we might not hold in it. It's only going to last so long. The trend is only going to last so long. So this is really what I've been looking at here is the 4-hour chart. And, we can move this one around the support line around a little bit. I was doing it based off of this dip that we saw in here. But if we wanted to scooch it on down to, say, 308, somewhere in there, that would probably be valid as well. You could honestly consider it to be more of a support zone from 308 up here to, say, 311, is probably valid. But just again, it was a pretty weak close all around, as we have faded yet again from this 325 mark. And so I will definitely be looking to see if there's some sort of support depending on the market conditions come next week, is if there's some sort of support down here around the $308 price point. But as you can see here on the 4-hour, we have the 50 and the 100 starting to curl down. The 200-day moving average is now starting to flatten. So this could spark more of a correction if we are going to dip down lower. I would say if we were to break through that 308 level, these wicks down here really don't mean much to me, but I would say that we're probably going to end up maybe down here around the $300 price point, especially with that being a round number, and it acted as a ceiling as we were trying to break through. I think it might act as a little bit of a support on the way down. But again, if it's a more volatile, quick trading, quick moving day, kind of like today, you can see we were down 2.25%, even more at some points, then we could quickly move through that level. It really just kind of depends, but we're just wanting to come up with a little bit of a game plan here. Nothing is set in stone. No resistance is going to bounce perfectly. So those are some two levels that we would want to look at. If we were to dip lower, we might want to reevaluate. Obviously, something in the market has changed. If we see, say, another 4% dip here on Apple. Definitely possible, but I'm not seeing us have a 4% dip come Monday or even Tuesday. Possible, but not my preferred scenario. Now, if we move in even a little bit closer, say to the hourly, this is really what we're looking at. It's coming down and seeing a bounce somewhere around the 308 to 311 mark. So I'll even throw in another line right in here. This is what I will be looking at. And I would like, honestly, if we were to come early Monday morning and we are trading in these levels, I would not be scared to take on a trade personally, to say, put a little bit of money on the table, buy a few shares, with the potential that come, say, a week or 2 weeks' time, we could see a move from here back up towards those mid 320s, resulting in about a 5.5% gain, which would be a nice gain. And we have seen that this trend is continuing over some period of time. Again, eventually it will break down either to the low side, or we will break higher and go on and set new highs here in Apple. But right in this little support range, I think could be a nice buy. If it comes to market open and we quickly are starting to move through these levels, and it doesn't really seem like there's a lot of buyers there to maybe make that price bounce as we saw back here in early February and in late January, then maybe that would be something that I would hold off on and wait to see as we get down to these low 300s. But it really just kind of depends on what the order flow is looking like at that given point. So come Sunday, when the futures are opening, that'll kind of give us a decent indication of, are we going to open lower, or are we going to gap up a little bit from a poor close? And this is on the S&P 500 futures, kind of be a nice indication, and on the NASDAQ futures, so it'd be a nice indication on maybe if Apple is going to bounce. But nonetheless, that is, just my breakdown. If you want to throw in a couple more resistance levels to the high side, you could say right in here where we had this bottom. Probably be better to put it in. Oh, no. We'll just do it like this. Oh, my goodness. There we go. Activate. Woo. Boom. Okay, so we'll say one right in here around 316. This one was a pre-market low. I don't know if I would necessarily want to put that one in, but this 316 is looking nice based off of this open around there. We saw another open that bounced right around there. So as far as a short-term resistance, that could be valid. But again, I think the big hurdle is seeing this reversal first, and then tackling some of these resistance levels. So right in there, and then as we get closer, I would say maybe one right in here, right in the high 319s, high to mid 319s could be one. But again, I think it could be a good buying opportunity, but keep in mind that on the weekly, we have cracked down below that 9-day moving average. Here on the daily, we have also started to show signs of this trend breaking down. This has just been a continual pattern to the upside, and now looks as if we were pretty shaky, and now we're starting to slow down a little bit. We've closed below the 50 right there, and then on the 4-hour, we'll just bring that back up to see that we've had these moving averages that are now converging and starting to move to the downside. So just play it smart. Make sure that you have some sort of plan put in place prior to taking on a trade with Apple, or with any trade that you are wanting to put on, and just be smart about it. So thank you guys for watching, and I hope that you have a great rest of your day.